I want to talk about this MAGA focus group. Apparently, Kyle of Secular Talk covered it. I have had no end of trouble finding the original focus group. I have no idea where he got this. I looked, so let's give this a listen.
Orange World YouTube channel. That's where we're dropping.
Holy shit, dude! The ads. Come on, man.
He's a Republican.
Like I just zone out for a split second, and I'm like neck deep in ads. Please, it is so fucking. You know what? I'm going there. It is disrespectful to the audience to give us 20 fucking minutes of ads and give us no indication of when they end. My God, YouTubers, if you're listening, don't do that. Keep them short, concise, 60 seconds or less, 30 seconds preferably. Split them up so we don't have to fucking listen to them for literally 2 minutes straight. That shit is so infuriating, man. Oh my God. By the way, guys, check out my new shop. owenmorgan.com/shop. I have a bunch of really cool designs on there. Just got an ad while watching this. YouTube's a lot better about like, segmenting it, showing you when it's going to start and end, and showing you that it most definitely is an ad and oh, that shit. Like I've seen some videos from YouTubers that are like 20 minutes long and 10 of those minutes are just ads. In fact, I've seen entire videos from YouTubers that are just ads. There's got to be content in here somewhere, right? Jesus Christ.
Let's go ahead and dive into it. So this guy, Frank Luntz, I'm sure you all know him. He's a Republican pollster who's, been very active in the field, and he always has these interesting focus groups. And so he gathered together a
Wait, did he just say where the focus group was?
The field, and so I'm sure you all know him. He's a Republican pollster. Let's go ahead and dive into it. So this guy, Frank Luntz, I'm sure you all know him. He's a Republican pollster who's, been very active in the field, and he always has these interesting focus groups. And so he gathered together a group of hardcore MAGA supporters, and he started asking them very basic questions about like the stock market imploding. And what follows is a realization of the disturbing reality that it really is the case that anywhere from 26% to 33% of this country are just gonzo. They just don't have their own functioning brains. They may as well be in the Jim Jones cult where everybody drank the Kool-Aid and killed themselves. So let's watch and then we'll break it down.
I need to ask you an issue that no one's brought up and that has crashed your 401ks, most of you, which are tariffs. Stock market is way down.
I figured tariffs would be like a losing issue for Donald Trump, right? Like everybody would be sick of Trump on tariffs. By the way, guys, check out my new shop, owenmorgan.com/shop. I have a bunch of really cool designs on there.
It needed a correction.
Oh, so you support it?
Yes. You bet.
Yep.
How many?
And I have to tell you, my 401k wasn't impacted at all.
First off, how many of you?
Yet. You have no idea how bad it's going to get in this country. Hundreds of thousands of people, nay, millions, have already lost their jobs. Maybe just hundreds of thousands. There is mass suffering. Every single move that Trump makes is making the United States worse. It's making the economy worse. It's making people's lives worse materially. For example, basically threatening to or actually garnishing the wages of defaulted student loan debt. The reason they defaulted is because they can't fucking afford it. It's literally between the loan and food or the loan and rent. Those are the options. You can have one or the other. And these people, and Donald Trump has chosen to make people's lives materially worse by forcing the government to take the loan money back. There are a bunch of other ways in which Trump is making everyone's lives more miserable. The traumatic experience that he sent the federal workforce through, like, does anybody have any clue? Let me rephrase. Does anybody at the top of this regime, Trump or Trump-like adjacent people, do they have any clue what it's like to be fired or laid off, what that feels like, and what it's like to lay somebody off? I would bet they probably don't. In all seriousness, I know Trump pretended to fire people on TV. You think he was the dude doing the firing? Of course he wasn't. He was the dude hiring the guy that fired people. He's always had a body guy that does all that shit for him. Walt Nauta was the most recent. The point is, Trump has no idea how bad he has just made everyone's lives. Maybe this woman's life specifically, personally, is not affected yet, but when so many people experience mass economic downturn, are worse off now than they were a year ago, like half the country, I think, reports being worse off now than a year ago. When that's the case, the economy is going to suffer because people are going to stop spending money on disposable. They're going to stop spending their disposable income, which means Amazon is going to be going to be getting like fewer orders, which means these small American coffee cup makers are going to have fewer sales. There's going to be an economic contraction. There already is. And 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth, gross domestic product. It's 2 consecutive quarters of basically where we are not, the total output of all products in the entire United States, the total value of the product has gone down net for 2 consecutive quarters. It's going down. We have negative GDP growth. We'll see if that sustains for 2 quarters. And if it, I believe the rule is if it sustains for, is it 3 years, then it's a depression, I think. When you have negative GDP growth, when you're on a downswing like that, it's nearly impossible to dig yourself out of it. Problem is the government's job is to dig out of that type of thing. The government manages the GDP, they manage the Federal Reserve, they manage the economy and inflation and interest rates and everything else. And the government is responsible for what's happening right now, and they have a responsibility to fix it. But if you listen to Trump or any of his weird little nutcase sycophants tell the story, they have a responsibility to stay out of it. So they can f*** the economy to kingdom come, but fixing it, that's the free market's job. So anyway, there is mass suffering, the likes of which we have never seen in this country, and it's just ramping up. We have not seen the beginning yet. Her 401k is good right now. We'll see how that is in a year.
Did not lose any money over the crash of the stock market. One individual.
Well, then you're not invested in stocks. And, losing money isn't really the concern. The concern is a contraction of the GDP. The concern is the fact that people are not buying things and they have less money. There's less money to go around. But leave it to Trump supporters to not understand the first fucking thing about economics.
2 people. So, Serena?
The Biden administration, I lost more money than the Trump administration, by far.
2020.
So let's just be clear. Everything they're saying is total cope. There's no way that you lost more under Biden unless you are the world's weirdest and most bizarre investor who somehow picked like the handful of stocks that would have done better under Trump. Like if you picked up gold at the beginning of the Trump administration, then yes, that might be true. But that's like the only way.
Yeah, that's not helpful. Let me rephrase. That is absolutely complete nonsense. If he lost money under Biden but gained money under Trump, then he's an idiot. He's dumb as dog shit. All sound investing advice, all sound advice of any sort, if followed correctly by economists and regular human beings, would say you would lose money under Trump. The only way you would gain money is if you're doing ridiculously stupid, risky investments that will inevitably end in you losing everything. And that's the type of shit where when you do that, your family now has to come in and take your car keys from you and put you in a house that they pay for, and you can't touch any of the bills, and you get an allowance of like $100 a month, and they pay for your food, and that's it. That's the type of shit that happens to people who would have made money under Biden, or lost money under Biden, made money under Trump.
To make it so that you lost less than you did during the Biden administration. Look, this is lies. They're lying. This is just a lie.
Like in 2022, they crashed it by 25%. Yeah, for the whole year.
No one's upset over this?
No.
Nope.
No.
Nobody.
There's not
an end game here.
So he's like, hold on. The stock market is like absolutely imploding. We're looking at a Great Recession or maybe even a potential depression. No one's upset about this?
Again, the recession is pretty much inevitable. It's absolutely going to happen. Recessions are horrific events. that destroy people's lives completely. A recession is a worst case scenario made worse only by an extended recession that lasts years, a depression. So if you're not upset about this, then you are the stupidest human being on planet Earth. But you know what's bizarre to me? It seems like about 40% of the country agrees with Donald Trump, or is at least okay with what's happening. You know, MAGA only makes up, MAGA, about 20%, 20% of the country, in my opinion. And there are concentric circles. There's another circle outside of MAGA, the bottom 30% of the country, who at the very least buy into MAGA ideas to some degree. Immigrants are damaging the economy. Oh, that's another thing. Immigrants being taken away who were previously working farms. Where the fuck do you think we're going to get people to pick berries and shit now, really? It was a trope that undocumented immigrants work on farms because it's a fact that farmers have been hiring undocumented immigrants for generations at this point to work their farms. What the fuck are we going to do now that there aren't any people to like pick our berries and stuff? Really? Like the economic downturn that we're going to experience. I mean, it's already led to mass suffering. If you haven't been touched by it, then you are an elite privileged. Then you're elite and privileged. We'll put it that way. Every single thing that Donald Trump is doing right now is hurting more and more and more people.
And all of them are like, nah, bro. Nah, we good. Again, you need to understand. This is not, when the market does well, they privatize the profits, right? When the market does poorly, they socialize the losses. So when the market goes up, that's really good for the wealthy. It's whatever for everybody else. When the market goes down, everybody feels the pain. Prices are going to go up. Layoffs are going to happen. So this idea of like, bro, we're good. It'd be very interesting if you talk to them in a year.
Yeah. So how much has the Dow Jones raised? Let's see. Since 2009, we'll say. No, let's go with after the Great Recession. All right. We'll say 2010. Dow Jones Industrial Average is a compilation of a bunch of different companies and their stock value. So like Google's stock value is like $200. Tesla's stock value is like $100. I don't even know what they are. But you add all of that together to get the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Now, it goes up and up and up and up because the companies that fail, that hit zero, aren't included in the average anymore. They're just removed from the statistic now, right? So it will continue to go up because new companies are added that continue to go up, and the companies that fail are removed. But it's an indication of, to some degree, like our gross domestic product or GDP. They're kind of correlated with each other. So just taking a look here, we'll say when we were on the upswing, 2010, it was at 11,000 points, basically. And we hit a high of 45,000 points. Right, so we raised 34,000 points. How much did we raise by a percent? We raised about 315%. People that had money in the stock market are 315% richer today than they were then. They tripled their amount of money. Now, let's find out what minimum wage was in 2010. It was $7.25 an hour. And I remember I was working in 2010. In fact, I was working in 2007 in high school, and I was making $5.40 an hour. And when we got a raise to $7.25, I was like, wow, this is incredible. It really wasn't. It was a normal amount of money, but it was more than I was making previously, right? $7.25. You want to know what the minimum wage is today? It's $7.25 an hour. If it kept up with the stock market, it would be $23 an hour. So the filthy rich are even filthier rich, and the poor are just as poor as they've ever been. The economy moved on without us, basically, is my point here.
To see if they say the same thing, because it will literally be impossible to escape the pain in a year.
1 year period in the history of the stock market where the stock market hasn't appreciated at an average rate of about 7%. It's so, yeah, there's ups and downs and corrections, and sometimes people are foolish and they jump out, buy high, sell low. But if people just get in and stay the course, they'll be just fine.
This is such a boomer mindset. It's such a boomer mind. Yeah, it goes up, it goes down, but in the long run, it goes up. It's like Trump this time around. Not only are the stocks imploding because of the trade war, but the dollar is going down too. Usually when the stock market goes down, the dollar goes up because people do the flight to safety to the dollar. Now the world...
Because the dollar is a world reserve currency. People can buy U.S. debt by buying U.S. Treasury bonds. You can pay the U.S. government and they'll give you a little certificate or whatever that says U.S. Treasury bond on it. And they were encouraging people to buy U.S. Treasury bonds, like during World War II, for example, support the war, buy U.S. bonds. And it has a low return of like 2 or 3% or something because it's so reliable. There will always be U.S. Treasury bonds. Like, we will always be able to come back to this, and they will always pay their interest or whatever. You will always get paid from this. But nobody went to buy U.S. Treasury bonds this time around, which means people are losing faith in the U.S. government, which means they're not pumping money into our economy anymore, which means we're f***ed.
The world is dumping the dollar because they're going, the United States can't be the world reserve currency anymore. They can't lead the world. They're too chaotic. They're too unstable. They're not good to their word. They pull out of treaties. They threaten wars on their allies. They do trade wars with everybody. So the idea that, bro, it'll work itself out. No, it won't. No, it won't. You need competent, real leadership. And they don't have that. Oh, my God.
Yeah. And I was about to say, I'm not a day trader. I try not to look at it very often.
Right. Yeah, that's right. That's how you should do it. You shouldn't be looking at it. Exactly. But it's an indication of where the economy is going. And the Great Recession took us, how long did it take? Let me just double check this and see. My dad was he worked for a company writing software and managing their broker software. Well, my dad didn't. He worked with somebody maintaining their computers, and my brother was doing the software management. All right, so October 5th, 2007 was the high, right? And it took us 7 years, somewhere in there, 6 or 7 years to recover from the absolute train wreck that was the Great Recession. 6 or 7 years. And your money is like literally losing value right now. Like, as we speak, your money is losing value. It's not that you have, less, like, money is a representation of labor, right? So you make $150 for 8 hours of work. That labor is time that you put in. It represents that amount of labor that you worked, right? If the economy goes down and that $150 was in it when it did, your labor is now worth less than it was previously, and you just have less money. We are wiping out value. Like, the country previously had, trillions and trillions of dollars in market capital, I guess you could say. I'm not even sure what it was. And it now has less. It is insane. You know what I think Mark Kelly said? Or maybe it was Scott Kelly. It was the senator one. He said, Trump wiped out more wealth than any human being ever on planet Earth in a day. He spoke, and people lost trillions of dollars collectively. And I got to thinking about that. Like, did he really wipe out more wealth than any other human being on planet Earth? I think he might have, for real. I think Trump wiped out more wealth than anybody ever. That's not a statistic you should be proud of.
Which is, I think, a good thing. But I also trust that Trump and all of his advisors that are involved with the tariff issue know what they're doing. So I'm just going to hang on. I know it'll correct at some point. I'm not really worried about it.
You know why it matters if people, like, if it took us 6 years to go back to where we were? Because everybody that was about to retire when they did now has to wait 6 more years before they can retire. Everything is delayed a minimum of 6 years, and you have no idea how long it actually is going to be. Like, people who want to retire, in 6 months, they can't now because of the market volatility. Like, they're old as shit, can barely walk around now, and they have to retire. They have no choice. What the f*** are they going to do?
Despite all of the evidence to the contrary, I'm just going to say they know what they're doing. But they don't. They just don't. Like, what are you supposed to do? Again, look, don't waste your breath on the TFGs. The TFGs are TFG, right? Like, you just can't do it. You can't do it.
How much more are you willing to pay for products and services that come out of China? How much do prices have to go up before you say, this is not that great?
I'd rather not buy from China. I'd rather pay more money and buy American.
Yeah, but we don't have those factories in America. That's noble and great and appreciated and all that shit. but they're not manufacturing the items here. Okay, we can't buy diamonds in America. We can't buy iPhones in America because they're mined and produced elsewhere. Why would he place tariffs on diamond mines? We don't have diamond mines. We can't grow our own. Not efficiently, anyway. Go ahead. You go ahead and buy American diamonds and sapphires and rubies and emeralds and see how quickly that price goes up. When I say that, I mean not just like it's going to double. I mean there's no supply to supply the people with what they want. So it's going to be like $10,000 for a diamond instead of $500. That type of shit. You have no clue what you just unleashed on the world.
Oh my God. Oh my God. They're believing the lie that, bro, this trade war is going to lead to American manufacturing booming. The opposite is happening. We are losing manufacturing.
You have to set up separate supply chains before you do tariffs for that to work.
Trump killed the CHIPS Act. That added 115,000 high-paying manufacturing jobs. Those jobs are gone because of Trump. You got all these factories now fleeing because they're like, we can't afford to build the factory because the tariffs, the raw materials are too expensive. They are buying, oh my God. Oh my God. It would be very interesting, again, to come back in a year and talk to these people to see if any of them were able to wake up from the cult mindset.
Absolutely. It would be so interesting. I don't think so, though. I don't believe that these people are going to wake up from it. These people on screen. I think that they are gone forever. I think that people who are okay with what's happening right now will be okay with literally anything that happens. You know, America is effectively opening or has opened a concentration camp in El Salvador, and it's sending people to it who are sent to do slave labor. If they're okay with that, there is nothing that they would not be okay with.
Or if they're just going to do mental jujitsu and somehow blame the deep state for when the country is in a depression.
There you go. That's it. That's the one.
And prices only go up if demand is inelastic and if there's no alternative supplies. And they're doing a brilliant job. They're surrounding China with countries that want to manufacture stuff as well. And we do need to bring the stuff back, the strategic stuff for sure. But China is going to be in the soup if they don't knock it off.
Oh.
Wow, interesting. So this guy recognizes that, like, we should be getting stuff from China, and Trump did f*** up, but he's not blaming him for it. Sure, I think that Trump blah, blah, blah. But, you know, he knows what he's doing. No, he fucking doesn't. If he knew what he was doing, then we wouldn't be in this situation.
Oh my God. He gets it exactly backwards. When Trump declared the trade war, he did it on all countries. The only ones he didn't, it was like Russia and North Korea and Cuba, and that was because we don't really trade with them anyway. But the idea, bro, we're isolating China like experts, bro. No, you're not.
Yeah, China formed a trading bloc with, I think, Japan and South Korea. Holy fucking shit. Do you know how bad you have to fuck up to get China to ally on anything with with South Korea and Japan? Really? I mean, that is like really wild. Like, we are uniting old enemies right now, is what we're doing. Well, we, as in, like, Trump and his weird little nutcases. God, it's so insane. Everything is so insane about this situation. Like, I cannot believe that we are in it. I honestly did not see that coming. Certainly not that quickly.
You pissed off everybody, and now everybody's running into the loving arms of China. That's what's happening.
I honestly believed that capitalists would protect us, like, from the worst, most stupid decisions that Trump would make. I believed that the owner of Walmart and Home Depot dude is like out of his head drunk on MAGA. I believed despite that, we would be protected from the worst ramifications of Trump's idiocy. That he would go in and he would say, hey, what the fuck are you doing? You're acting like a moron. And he did that, actually. Home Depot dude, Walmart dude, Amazon dude, I believe. Or no, Target dude, I'm sorry. And Target dude, they all did that. But it was too late. Not only is our economy completely f***ed now, but in addition to that, China has decided to continue the trade war until Donald Trump basically gets on his knees and apologizes. As far as I can tell, China is going to make Trump eat his words, or they're not going to work with us anymore. And Trump's never going to do that, so we're just going to continue being f***ed. No, I think Trump will back down eventually. I can't believe he did this in the first place. What was the fucking point of starting a trade war? Why did he do this? I don't understand. What was the idea? What was the point, the purpose? They say Trump knows what he's doing. How can you possibly say that? I don't even know why he's doing what he's doing.
Canada and Mexico and the EU are looking to make deals with each other. South Korea and Japan and China, normally enemies, they're now making deals with each other. We are about to be cut out of future trade deals because we're so fucking unstable and he's so chaotic and he's so stupid. And he really thinks, brilliant chess move, sir. Masterful gambit, sir. You really isolated China by pissing off the entire world and making them all hate America.
Every article of clothing I have on is probably made in China, Malaysia, or somewhere else.
Yeah, dumb. That's everybody's clothing. What do you think is going to happen when we don't have access to that, like those clothing plants anymore? You think we're just going to open, 15,000 like shirt manufacturing plants in the United States tomorrow? It's not that they're going to be too expensive. It's that they're literally not going to exist. We literally will not have the things that we need is the problem.
Okay, retailers, give me something made in America. I'd gladly buy it, but
they very obviously don't understand the first thing, not even the first thing about Keynesian economics.
It's not there. Go to Walmart. You ain't going to find jack shit, pair of socks and underwears made in America.
Made in China.
Yeah, and that's not going to change when we tariff China. It's only going to be like a pair of socks and underwear there. And who's going to get the socks and underwear? Depends on who has the most money.
Maybe. But, shoes, Nikes, Pumas, they're all overrated. They're probably all made overseas.
Oh, my God.
Many American shoe companies have you seen go kaput? There used to be one 30 miles down the road, made great shoes. You don't hear from them.
Yeah, first of all, like I said, manufacturing is not coming back. It's not happening. The opposite is happening. Second of all, even if you did bring back low-level manufacturing like textiles and stuff like that, do you want to pay $200 for a shirt?
Additionally, do you know how miserable manufacturing is in China, for example? Do you have any idea how bad it is to have to do that job? People work that job 20 hours a day to get enough money to eat. They have to produce like 500 bags a day, something. You don't want that. You ever heard of Chinese sweatshops? They're notorious for a reason. You want that here? You want sweatshops here?
How about $500 for a pair of sneakers? That's what it'd be looking like, right?
Yeah, closer to $1,000 per pair of sneakers, maybe. In the beginning, maybe even $5,000 per pair of sneakers. It just kind of depends on how quickly anybody can get anything going or any deals. Like, we're going to have to make deals with outside countries. There's no way around it.
That's what it would cost here. Like, to actually bring back American manufacturing, it needs to be high-tech manufacturing. Biden did that with the CHIPS Act, and Trump killed it, okay? They don't know anything. Their whole worldview is just coping and seething and mental jujitsu and gymnastics to pretend like this guy's some fucking hero and some amazing leader who has it all figured out.
We need a correction. We just need a correction. We're willing to take whatever.
I love so now they're actively rooting for a market collapse. We need a correction, bro. We need a correction. Yeah, I'm sure that when the market goes down under Democrats, I'm sure you're saying, bro, we just needed a correction. I agree with the administration destroying the economy, bro.
Yeah, what do you mean by correction exactly? How is it going to solve literally any single thing, anything at all, for the economy to crash? How would that make anything better? Even one thing. It will solve literally nothing, but it will cause mass starvation and suffering. What broke in you that you think this is a good idea? What is broken? I'm sorry, I gotta be honest with you guys. I believe our root problem as a country is Fox News. Not Newsmax, not One America News Network, not social medias, whatever. I think it's Fox News specifically. And the reason I think that is because Fox News has been around and doing their insane shit since the 90s. There have always been like weird little right-wing nutcases in America, but they really ramped up in the 90s and turned into something unglued from reality in the 2000s under Bush. They brainwashed an entire generation of people, multiple generations from the 90s to today, and they continue to brainwash people. Like, as we speak, they're brainwashing people. They are gaslighting them. They're telling them that the reality that they see is not the reality that everybody else is experiencing. And until we deal with that, like I'm thinking, I wrote about Nazi Germany at length last year, I think, and learned a lot about denazification efforts and stuff like that. And I'm trying to think, like, say everything collapses and Democrats get in power. Let me rephrase: progressives, AOC, Bernie Sanders, are president and vice president. And we have a fully progressive Senate and House and judiciary. What do we do? How do we solve this? Under Nazis, denazification efforts included basically finding anybody that was a member of the Nazi party and sending them through Spruikhammer courts. And the Spruikhammer courts gauged their degree of Nazi involvement, 1 to 5. If it was a 5, then they were just nominal members. A lot of people had to be members of the Nazi party, or they, were targeted with harassment, accused of being communist. Sound familiar? So the Spruikhammer courts would send them through. If they were a 5, they were nominal members of the party, and they were pretty much dismissed, left alone. No, I think 5 was they were nominal members, but they showed efforts opposed to the party. Like they were working underground to work against them. 4, I think, was just they were members and they weren't involved in politics really at all. And then it just get more progressively extreme from there. If AOC and Bernie Sanders were president and vice president and we had full Democratic control, I think the first thing that I would do is institute a fairness doctrine where you are not allowed to, as a news agency on public access television, broadcast positive things about one political party unless you give equal time to the other political party, equal positive coverage to the other party. That is where I would start. I would send every single Republican through the Spruikhammer courts. If they were just registered, fine, go home. If they showed support for Trump, if they helped immigrants be captured and sent to concentration camps, then they are charged and sentenced in the Spruikhammer courts. I think that's what I would do. It's just really hard to know how to fix this problem. How do we fix this? We're not going to see societal collapse, but we'll see very likely economic collapse. And along with collapses of any sort comes rebuilding. How's it going to be rebuilt? We're probably going to be the ones to decide that eventually. We should probably be thinking about how we're going to do it.
Of course. Exactly. It's been a rough 2 weeks, but guess what? We got 3.5 years to worry.
Exactly.
And if it's like this in a year, I'll have another discussion, maybe.
Maybe, she says.
Maybe. Oh, my God.
That tells us that she is actually suffering, that she is actually concerned about what's happening. She just thinks that Donald Trump is going to fix it. Well, he fucking did this. This is his fault.
So this is the first admission that actually, it's been a bad 2 weeks. Everybody else is like, actually, it's been a great 2 weeks. I don't even know what you're talking about. Everything's wonderful. I've never seen anything this good, bro. This is all going exactly to plan. Then you have one person admitting, it's been a rough 2 weeks. Then she goes, talk to me in a year, and maybe if it's still bad, I'll criticize. Doubt it. I doubt it. Look.
Not happening. It's going to be forgotten.
I'll say it again. This is what Democrats need to understand. The hardcore MAGA, you are never going to convince. It doesn't matter. You could literally materially improve all of their lives. You can give them high quality, free universal health care, right? You could have them all join a union and their pay goes up and their benefits go up and, they get more paid time off. You could do anything for them and they'll still not like you. This is hardcore MAGA. This is the actual cult. The real concern here is, again, 26 to 33% are just gonzo. The real concern is, how do you get the remaining people? Right? That's the question. The 70% that's actually gettable, that is somewhat connected to objective reality, that's where you have to put your focus. And the way you do that is to represent a counter narrative and counter philosophy that tells a different story from the MAGA story, where it's, hey, immigrants, they cause all our problems. Trans people, they cause all our problems. We believe in Trump like he's an emperor, overlord, God king. That's their worldview. you have to make the argument for the reality, which is the problem are the billionaires. The problem are the multinational corporations. The problem is the corruption and the legalized bribery. We're going to stop that. We're going to tax the wealthy. We're going to redistribute it to everybody else who busts their ass and doesn't get paid what they deserve, right? So that's how you handle it. But again, for these people, I mean, you know, shit, you could be the most convincing person in the world. You're not a fucking magician. You're not a magician. You can't perform miracles. You're not a deity. You're not a demigod, right? You can't do it. And so just this is a stark reminder to everybody that no matter how bad it gets, there will be anywhere from 26% to 33% that will never leave him. And the thing is, we're on track for it to be more like that 26 number, the bottom number. We're on track for that. So, but still, once you get to a certain level, it ain't good.
They should have left him already. The fact that he has any support left, any at all, it's an outrage. He literally attempted an insurrection on the U.S. government and failed, and a bunch of people, hundreds or even thousands, were charged for their role in his insurrection. And he got away with it completely because they want to look forward, not backward. Well, guess what, guys? This should be an indication you need to look backward, too. You can't just look forward, because if you don't look backward, people ahead of you are going to be doing what those guys did because they know they can get away with it. Obama said he wouldn't charge George Bush or investigate him or anything because he was looking forward. No. If people commit crimes, they need to be charged. Period. And George Bush absolutely committed crimes. Horrific, disgusting, unspeakable, evil crimes. It just so happens we have somebody even worse now, is all.
Going to go below it. Even George W. Bush at his most unpopular was at like 26% approval, right? Like it just...
Yeah, Eric Adams is at 20%. He's just a complete moron.
It is what it is. There's some people who are just not all there. And remember, I got those numbers from the polls.
I mean, 7% of the U.S. believes that chocolate milk comes from brown cows.
On Greenland, the pollsters asked, hey, should the U.S. take Greenland? The low number was 26%. The high number was 33%. That's why I feel like there's no... If you're saying to a pollster, yeah, I think the United States should militarily steal Greenland, I mean, I don't think there's any string of words I could put together that would...
You're gone.
...make you be like, you know what? You're right. I disagree now with Trump and Trumpism. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So anyway, sorry I just ruined your faith in humanity. But again, this portion is what it is, but there's a lot of people who are not part of it, and that's the focus.
Anyway, wow, that was really interesting. Tell me what you think about it in the comments. I'm just like super disappointed in where the United States has gone. Like, I know that there's a vocal minority out there that likes Donald Trump and would do anything for the guy. And I know that our legal governance system is set up in such a way that those people have more power than the majority. It's set up to be minority rule. It was set up that way for two reasons. One, to make sure that, you know, mob rules mentality didn't reign supreme. And two, because the rich are a minority and they have the most sway over legal systems in the first place. So they want to make sure that, like, slave owners would always have control over slaves, for example. So I always knew that Trump supporters were very, I knew that they were a minority. They've always been a minority. But I didn't realize it was such a large minority. I thought it was closer to 15, 20% that were like, you know, like Nazis. That was roughly how many Nazis there were in Germany, 15, 20%. How are we up to 40% support for Trump? They, you know, the U.S. people, they will forgive literally anything if they have forgiven him up to now. If they would be willing to vote for him, they will forgive literally anything. It's just wild. Tell me your thoughts.